Next few minutes, I just want to take us on a trip to heaven. And my goal here is to really make you get excited about heaven, that you don't care anymore about Chicago, don't care anymore about all things that are your problems, because just the prospects of heaven should make you desire to live and to live, just for that. I know heaven is nothing except for the fact that God is there, but because that's what it is, so this will be my goal, that we will all be excited. Our generation doesn't talk much about heaven. I think maybe because we don't believe that it exists, or it's just a fiction of imagination of people, but there's just no, that appropriation of a place that we know for real is there, and we want to be there. I can tell you, those of us who grew up in the 60s, there was so much talk about heaven, songs that were written and sung in churches. It's always about God and about heaven. I mean, if you've lived long enough like me, you will know that this is very true. But today, we don't talk that much about heaven. We don't sing those songs as much. In fact, most of the songs that are written, contemporary songs, we call them today, they are all about myself, about my experience, about life here on earth. And what has this world really got to offer to us that we're even singing about it? So it's such a shame that we have lost, just the lure, the attraction of heaven, and we have filled our minds and our thoughts with just earthly and perishable things that are going to pass away. And so my prayer is that we will be recharged and re-engaged with the mindset of heaven where we are all heading to by the grace of God. I know some say, well, but I've never been to heaven. I don't know it's there. Perhaps a bird in hand is worth two in the forest. I know that adage. People say things like that. But let me tell you, heaven is real. It's for real. So it's worth you letting off this one bird, which is the earth that we have, and grab the two birds that are coming. They are real. You will get them. So what is heaven? Well, heaven, number one, the thing that we quickly remember is this material vaulted sky that we turn our eyes to and we look and we say, that is heaven. Well, that's true, this one, because the Bible keeps referring to that, look up to the sky is heaven. But that's not all that is heaven. Heaven is the eternal dwelling place of God, which may not be the sky that you see, that I see. Heaven is beyond that. And so, heaven is the dwelling place of God. In fact, in John chapter 14 and verse 2, Jesus calls it my Father's house. How about that? Right. My Father's house. Heaven is my Father's house. And if you're a child of God, you are a brother of Jesus, you are a sister to Jesus, then it's our Father's house. And that's where we're going to dwell. So think of heaven more in those terms, rather than an abstract place or a vaulted sky and all of that. Think of it. That's your Father's house. And that's where you and I are going to dwell forever. So where is it? Of course, we don't know. It's just that we are pointed always to the sky. Lift up your eyes to the sky. Lift up your eyes to the heavens. But we know that heaven is not what you and I can see with our physical eyes. We cannot see heaven. I don't know what scientists think of when they talk about, the planets that are out there. They talk about the stars that are so many million light years away. I don't even know how to calculate that. I don't even figure out that. Now, if that is still where the abode of the skies are, of the stars are, then maybe heaven is even beyond that. Because if they can see those stars that are like millions of years away, I guess they can see heaven with their telescopes. I believe they can see that. And so it may be beyond what their telescopes can, focus in. When Paul talked in one of those revelations that he received, that he was taken to the third heaven. Now, if there's a third heaven, maybe there must be a first, there must be a second. Maybe there is a fourth even, we don't know. So which of the heavens is the dwelling place of God? You and I don't know. But the reality is that God is somewhere, and we'll look at that. And it doesn't matter to me where it is located. The fact is that my Father is there, and I'm going to be there. How about you? That's the most important thing. Doesn't matter. He is there, and we're going to be there. Now, if you look at the Bible, from the Old Testament right through to the New Testament, there are people who have had some experiences of heaven, kind of. Enoch will be one of the first people that left this world without dying, and we're told that he was taken up to heaven. Okay, now, that's all the record that we have about him. There's another fellow by the name of Elijah. He too was taken away to heaven, in fact, with a chariot. Okay, so there was a chariot that came all the way from heaven and took him away to heaven. Well, that one too, we read about that in the book of 2 Kings. Paul, that we mentioned, had a vision of heaven, and he recorded that in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. And he talked much about that, how he was taken to heaven, and he saw things that he was not even allowed to come and talk about. All right? Because I even wonder how he could even talk about it anyway. Because someone else too, by the name of John, Apostle John, who wrote the book of Revelation. All right? And all the book of Revelation has a lot to do about heaven. And of course, chapter 21, that our sister Motayo read to us, gave us a description of heaven. And sometimes I sit back and wonder, I say, how can John even attempt to describe heaven when there is nothing that is in heaven that can be compared with anything here on earth? All right? So it's like trying to describe something that is indescribable. And that's what John was attempting to do. So even all this gold, silver, and there was no silver there, gold and all these other things that were mentioned, he was only using earthly precious stones that we see and we know. I believe heaven's precious stones are more precious than the most precious stone here on earth. But since there's nothing to compare with that, John is telling us it's carnelian, jasper, beryl, topaz, and all of that. But because that's what we are familiar with. If he talked about what he really saw there, there will be no words to compare. And if he calls words that you and I cannot identify with, he will be speaking Greek to us. Amen. So, get what he said is the list of the description that he could give us, just to give us a little mental knowledge or idea of what heaven would look like. But it is by far greater than what he could ever describe in words, in human words. So John made that attempt, and he couldn't do much. Now there's someone else that we know. Actually, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, who was with the Father in heaven. And he came to our world. And so when he talks about heaven, he is the one who will tell us a lot more about heaven. Because he's been there, and he came to this world, and he left and returned back to heaven. And so he said in John chapter 16, verse 28, I came from the Father and entered the world. Now I'm leaving the world and going back to the Father. Where is the Father? In heaven. What is heaven? Our Father's home. And he went back there. And so Jesus can talk about heaven. And he talked about the glory that he had in heaven. He talked about the relationships in heaven. He tells us everything that is in heaven, at least in terms that we can understand. But again, know that it is beyond what we can fully grasp or understand being on this side of the world. So, looking at the passage that was read to us, I'll just browse through some of the issues there. So, beginning at verse 1 of Revelation 21, let me just read a couple of the verses there again. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. Now, if you think this world is beautiful, if you think this earth is beautiful, if you think there are cities in this world that are really, really great, because they are kept clean, everything is sparkling, everything works there, and people even behave right, including the animals. I mean, if you find any perfect city like that in this world, well, again, understand that it's nothing to compare with heaven. All right? Heaven is beautiful, we're told. And the only way that, John could describe that, he talked about a bride prepared on her wedding day. And of course we witnessed Omotayo not too long ago. And all the frenzy, preparation that took place, and we are praying for our sister Marine also, just you can imagine all the preparation to present herself as beautiful as she can on that day. Amen. They are sparing no dollars, no cents, they are not sparing anything. They are sparing nothing to make sure that that day is perfect and to present a bride that is sparkling, all right? A sparkling bride. You can imagine that. Now, John is describing the new heaven that God is preparing for us, just like a bride that is being prepared or that's preparing herself for that wedding day. And so, heaven is going to be brought down to us just as a bride. You can imagine that. Of course, the grooms, they stand there smiling. You know what they are seeing. They see something beautiful, someone beautiful, as in the best form that she can be. And that's what it is. God is preparing heaven for us. Okay. Now, so the beautiful thing I like about heaven, verse 3, and I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God." Now this is heaven, my brothers. This is heaven, my sisters. It's God's presence with us. You can have the most beautiful place. If God is not there, that's not beautiful anymore. Yeah. Because what makes it beautiful is not the materials that is made of that. It is the presence of God himself. A home is not a home because there are 4 walls and there is insulation, there is heat, there is TV, there is food, there is refrigerator, and all of that. That's not what makes a home a home. Amen. A home is a home because of the people who dwell there. And when there is love, when there is peace, when there is understanding, that home is a beautiful home. You can have the most exquisite home built worth millions of dollars, but if the people living inside there are like at loggerheads with each other, every day they are quarreling, every day they are fighting, there is no peace, there is no joy, that is no home at all. Call it a battleground. That's a battleground, not a home. A home is where there is peace, where there is joy, where there is relationship that it's just what it should be. That's what home is. And that's what heaven is all about. It has to do with God's presence. God is there. God is there with his people. And we enjoy that presence. Now, you and I were not there when God created the world. And when he created that garden in Eden and put in there Adam and Eve. But we understand that everything was perfect because when God created all things, he said everything was what? Good. Up to the time that Adam and Eve sinned, there was no problem at all. Everything was perfect. Everything was beautiful. God himself was always with them in the garden, the cool of the evening, as we read in Genesis. He is there with them, enjoying fellowship with them. There was no sin. There was no evil. There was no jealousy. There was no gossip. There was none of these things. No sickness. No hunger. Just no... Just mention anything you think that doesn't work really right. It wasn't there. Everything was perfect. And what it made it perfect? God was there with Adam and Eve. And that's it. And that's what God is trying to recreate to us. Amen. Bring back to us when we come to the new heaven that he has revealed. Now down to verse 5. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Yes. Then he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. He said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water without cost, from the spring of the water of life. Well, you know what? This world that we're living in is decaying. I don't know if you realize that. It is decaying. This world is dying. It's not going to survive. Actually, even we're told, a child is born, the moment a child is born, the child starts dying. Do you get that? Oh yes. If God has given you 70 years, the very day you are born, you start counting off because you are dying. That's what it is. This world is dying. This world has rotten up. There's no self-improvement that we can make in this world. We cannot do any makeups and change things and improve things in this world. In fact, the world is getting worse by the day. It's getting worse by the day. Again, those of us who live a little bit longer, you know that there are better relationships than there are today. People could live together. Those of us coming from the northern part of Nigeria, we had no problem living Muslims, Christians, and enemies together. We had no problem. We sleep in the same place. We go and eat in the same place. We visit each other in our homes. There was not a single problem. Now we think we have gotten some more educated. We think we have advanced. We think we have accomplished so much. But what has happened? Those relationships are no longer there. We mistrust. There's no trust for anybody anymore. Everybody, they suspect what they are planning, what evil. And so our world definitely is dying. But Jesus said, I am the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, and the end. Simply saying that I am going to make everything new. That's what he said. I'm going to put this aside. We can't make any self-improvement on it anymore. It's beyond trying to fix or to upgrade. The upgrade wouldn't work. We need a whole new heaven and a whole new earth. And that's what God is doing. This current world has been tainted with sin, has been tainted with evil. And there's no amount of trying to clean it up that will work. It won't work. And so it has to be set aside, completely destroyed, and a new heaven and a new earth where sin has never been and will never be, where all the evil has never been and will never be. Amen. So there will be nothing like in the past, to bring into that new heaven. Amen. So let's keep that in mind. And verse 7 tells us those who will be in, those who are victorious will inherit all of these. And I will be their God. I like that. And they will be my children. They will inherit heaven. I will be their God. And they will be my people. I looked up several passages. I'm not going to go through those passages, but Revelation 7:9 tells us that people from all different tribes and nations are going to be there. How about that? You may say, well, we find it very hard to live with each other here. How is it going to be in heaven? Perfect. No problem at all. All right? You'll be able to live with me. You will? Yes. Even if you can't live with me now. You'll be able to live with me, and I'll be able to live with you. It's going to be perfect. People from all nations, from all tribes, from all backgrounds. Revelation 22:14 tells us that it is only the righteous. Only the righteous. So anybody with any evil intent, it's not going to be there. So you don't have to fear that someone might be stalking, someone might be, just trying to trail you, do harm to you. You don't have to have that fear. Only the righteous will be there. Amen. Daniel 7 tells us there will be thousands and thousands of people. So, wow, wonderful. Actually, in Revelation 5, it talks about thousands of people, thousands of angels will be there, thousands of, and the living creatures will be there, the elders will be there, and of course, all of us who have been redeemed by the Lamb, we are all going to be there. Of course, it includes, as I said in Revelation 19, verse 6, a multitude of people will be there. Not like that. John chapter 1 verse 12 tells us that Jesus came to his own, but his own did not receive him. But to all who receive him, who believe in him, he gave them what? The right to become children of God. So the children of God are going to be in the house of God. They are going to be in the home of God. They are going to be in the Father's house, which is heaven. And so we are looking with excitement. So we know that we can be sure. The question is, are you sure you're going to be there? Are you sure you're going to be there? Because it says, to all who receive him, he gave them the right to become children of God. Amen. And I think John knows so much about this because he brought these issues of assurance of being in heaven more than any other writer of the Bible. He talked about it in John. He talked about it in the 3 little epistles, 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John. He talks so much about them. In fact, in 1 John 5, he talks about that he has written this so that you may know that you have eternal life. So what did he say? He wrote this so that you and I will know that we have eternal life. He who has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son of God does not have life. I write this to you who believe in the name of the Son of God so that you may know that you have eternal life. Amen. Talk to any other person who believes in any other religion or whatnot. Are you sure you're going to heaven? They will tell you, well, I don't know. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. It depends on God. But God is saying to us here, who have believed in the name of the Son of God, that we can know with certainty that we are going to heaven. In verse 8. Now those who will not make it there, he tells us very clearly about that. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death. Jesus is not talking about good deeds and bad deeds. I mean, this description is only to say that these people have rejected Jesus. Do you get it? Yeah. They've rejected Jesus, and that's why they live the way that they live. Because those who embrace Jesus, they will not live this type of life. So this description is only to affirm that these people have rejected Jesus. All right? So they will not make it into heaven. God says, no, going to hell. So I'm not going to bother us with all the details about the city that we're heading to, but the rest of Revelation 21 talks so much about it. Let me just give a quick highlights there. It says that heaven shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel like jasper, clear as crystal. Now that's heaven, very clean. Actually, you don't need these trucks that clean the streets every time, because there'll be no dirt there. All right, All those things will not be there. It's just going to be sparkling clean, cleaner than any glass that we've ever seen. That's heaven for us. It tells us that there are no walls. Now, we read there's talking about stadia. What is stadia? Okay, let me convert that to miles to us. The city is a square. Actually, it's a square. That's what it is. Because the length of the city, New Heaven, is 1,400 miles long, 1,400 miles wide. All right? And the walls are also 1,400. So it's like a cube, really. It's a cube. Now, 1,400. Now, if you want to imagine, what's the size of that? Now, it's about the size of America, the USA. That's the size of it. It's half of it. It's half of it. Now why do we need walls 1,400? It's not for protection. The walls are not for protection, but just imagine you seeing a wall 1,400 and it's all clear jasper. Guess what? That's the beauty. It's just beauty. It's not for protection. The width of the wall, the thickness really, the thickness of the wall, we're told, is about 216 feet. How's that? It means you can drive like 30 cars abreast. 30 cars abreast. That's the thickness of the wall. I mean, what do we need those walls for? The thickness of that wall for. Again, it's all for decoration. And God just decided to build the city that way. It's not so that any missiles or any bombs will not destroy that. Because there will be none of those things there. It's just for the beauty of it. And we're told that it has 12 gates, and those 12 gates are made of pearls. It has 12 foundations, and those foundations, each of them is made up of a precious metal. Precious. Now, for the 12 gates, it has the names of the 12 apostles, and for the walls, for the foundation, for the foundation, it has the names of the 12 apostles, and for the gates, it has the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. Yeah, that's just how God decided to do it. 12 gates. And each of those gates has the name of the 12 tribes of Israel. And the foundation, you don't make the foundation with you build a wall with just one foundation, but God made his with 12 foundations. 12. And each of them is a whole precious jewel. And the 12 apostles have their names on that. Now this is real. It's just the beauty of it. I was just imagining, I think we'll get to heaven. I know there will be a problem to get our sisters out of those foundations because they are just going to be looking at those precious metals. They will not want to live there. Their mansion is there. They will not even want to go in there. They are just looking at these precious metals on the foundation. Please, leave the foundation, go to your mansion. They are not. Anyway, but that's just to show the beauty of it. The beauty of it. The great city is made with all the street is made of what? Of gold. As pure as glass. You don't want to be there? I want to be there. I want to be there. So what about who built this? We're told in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1. It was built by God to last forever. The new heaven is built by God to last forever. Hebrews 11:10 says, the city with foundation and architect is God himself. God is the architect. And he made that. And Jesus also, as we read in John 14:2, has gone to build the mansions for you and me. Now, think about it. How long did it take God to create the whole world? Everything. 6 days. Is that now? Now, Jesus has been gone for how long? 2,000 years. Preparing what? Mansions for you and me. If he did all that we can see and not even see in 6 days, then what he's doing for 2,000 years and going, I don't know how we can even imagine it. I don't know how we can begin to imagine it. But there are mansions, and you have your own. I have my own. Our names are in there. We're going to be there with the Lord. You see, Matthew 6:20 tells us that all our treasure there in heaven is secure. Because no moth, No rust. No thieves go in there. So whatever you are storing for heaven is secure. And I'm not going to preach about how you get your, get all your valuables stored in heaven while you're here on earth. I think we've talked about that before, but we'll talk about it later. But if you want to know, you want to be a smart person, come and talk with me. I'll tell you how you can pass on your valuables from here to heaven, and they will remain there. When you get there, no rust, no more, no thieves will take that from you. Acts 7:55 says, the glory of God is there. The glory of God is there. Now, as I get to the end of this sermon, there are the no mores. When we get to heaven, there are the no mores. And that was read out to us in Revelation 21. I'll just run through that list. We're told that there will be no more sea. All right? All right, there are some people who don't want to be around water at all. All right, you are free. There will be no sea there. Number 2, no death. Number 3, no mourning. And I guess all of us know what it is to mourn. Number 4, no crying. You know, interesting thing. Babies, the very first thing they will do is what? When they are delivered, cry. When we're told, no more crying. Number 5, whatever, no pain. I like the next one. No temple, no church. Some of you drag yourselves to come to church today. You say it's cold. I rather would be snuggling in my back blanket. Okay, there'll be no church there. How about that? You'll be in the presence of God anyway. So that's all it is. No temple. All right. No need for the sun. It's a beautiful sun. It won't be there anymore. The moon, it won't be there anymore. You don't have need of that. Jesus, the Lamb of God, is the light. You don't need the sun. So clouds will not have to cover the sun and leave you, and we know the winter time in Chicago and other places, people are more moody because the sun doesn't shine. And we're just as moody as the clouds are, the dark clouds. So there won't be a need of that. And so you won't be moody at all. You'll be fine in heaven. All right? No gates will be shut like that. No night there. Nothing impure. No one who does anything shameful or deceitful there. No. Of course, in heaven, there will be crowns. Now that's where you and I just need to take note. There will be crowns. And what that means is that not everybody is going to get a crown. And some may have more crowns than others. And this is the area that we need to take care of, that I need to care of. There is a crown of joy, those who win souls to the Lord. There is a crown, the incorruptible crown, those who deny themselves and live for the Lord. There is a crown of righteousness, those who are looking forward to the coming of Jesus Christ. And if you are looking forward to the coming of Jesus Christ, you live for that. There's that crown of righteousness. There's a crown of life for those who are enduring trials right now and temptations, and they are living for the Lord. And there's a crown of glory, those who lead, shepherds, under shepherds of God's flock. So my brothers and sisters, 2 Peter 3 verse 14 says, so then, dear friends, since you are looking forward to this new heaven, make every effort to be found, how? Spotless, blameless, and at peace with Him. Make what? Every effort, not some effort. Every ounce of effort that you can put in to be found how? Spotless, blameless, and at peace with God. If you regard any sin in your life, you know that you won't have peace with God until that is resolved. And it's just as simple as that. So may the Lord help us that we will walk towards heaven. I know I'm going there. I don't want to see every one of you there. Let us all make the effort